Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. All right, we are 1 minute after, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. We have a pretty good group already, and I see several more joining. Thank you all for being here today. This is a very AMA style engaging session. So we have a handful of questions our panelists will be answering, but please feel free, leverage the Q&A capability here on the right-hand side and submit questions. And then we are going to have the back half of this session at least to answer any questions you all have. So please do that. As folks submit their or share a little bit about their background and their org and their current role, they'll also be sharing a little bit about themselves and their area of expertise. So definitely feel free to submit questions as they come to mind. So we will start here and let these wonderful panelists introduce themselves. Thank you so much for all making the time to share today. I know all four of these folks are very busy people. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Christopher Allen, lead a variety of marketing functions here at Q4, but specifically pertaining to this webinar, I lead the enablement function and the product marketing function at Q4. I've been in various marketing leadership roles and product marketing roles over the last 15 years. Organizations in the 50 to 100 million ARR and as large as 600-700 million in ARR, and super excited to be here, Larkin. Do you want to do the what lights you up question now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So we talked about this a little bit before we got on, but what lights me up kind of professionally is, we sell a platform at Q4, and when you look at an opportunity that is a well-rounded one, meaning they've purchased a lot of functionality off the platform, it's a high ASP type sale. Then you go to that contact, you sign the information, and you look through their activity history, and you can see that trail of how they engaged with you, what content they interacted with, what web pages they went to, who the follow-up was with, the BDR outreach, and track that through Gong. You kind of get that complete picture for like a quintessential deal. That fires me up. So that's really something that I enjoy and look forward to on a quarterly basis as I kind of review deals.
All right, Milan.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Milan Fatorik, and I'm a product marketing manager at IntroHive. I've been in product marketing roles for probably the last 5 years or so. And what lights me up is really just building and executing go-to-market strategies that align teams across the organization, especially during big key launches or large tier 1 launches. I really enjoy just translating complex product capabilities into clear value props and enabling teams to confidently tell that story. So you can ask me about product launches or creating effective enablement programs and assets, and I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you.
All right, Sam.
Awesome. Hey everyone, good to be here. I'm Sam Middleton. I look after product and solutions marketing at a company called enablement. We're a customer feedback software platform. I've been in this, industry for about 10 years through various acquisitions, through various enablements, re-enablements, new product launches, etc. And very, very excited to be here to talk through some of the learnings there. So ask me anything about product launches, sales enablement, pricing. More than happy to share what we've learned, good, bad, and ugly. I'm doing the lighten up question, aren't I? I forgot about that one. So yeah, what lights me up really is improvement metrics. I just love them, whether it's like a salesperson who's like smashing their quota because they're using the content we've delivered and enabled on when they weren't previously doing so, for example, is killer. Campaign conversion rates, love them. So just always looking for those percentage improvements, and that's what gets me going every day. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Gina?
All right. Hey guys, I am Gina Rago. I work here at Speckit on the product marketing team. Excited to be here. What lights me up? I'm going to say figuring out how to actually make go-to-market strategies work, especially when it comes to getting the right content in front of sales teams at the right time, in the right place, that kind of stuff. I think as every PMM knows, so much time and energy goes into creating great content, but if no one's using it, it's not doing its job. It's not driving impact. So I've spent, I think, a lot of time thinking about how to actually close that gap. So like, how can I make it easier for reps to share and find the right content or information? Right now, I'm going to make a quick shameless plug. We are focused on a really big go-to-market launch happening next week. So check back in with Speckit next week to see some exciting new features we've been working on. But post-launch, I will be turning my focus back on, refining our go-to-market strategies. So even at Speckit, we are constantly looking at how to make sales enablement and content management easier. And besides, I would say our reps, I'm one of our top internal Speckit users. So I'm in the platform every day trying to solve those challenges that I know other PMMs are feeling. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in digging into.
Awesome. Okay. So as mentioned, we do have some questions here already, but now that stuff's fresh in your mind in terms of what you can ask, if you have questions about product launch, about pricing, about any of the things that were mentioned, please chat or submit a Q&A while it's fresh in your mind. That way we can get to you. So this is like a fun Bezos quote, which is, I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And so it's part of a longer quote. You can research it. But I thought in the light of AI and everything innovating and changing so quickly, this might be kind of a fun opener, which is for product marketers, what do you see not changing? Or perhaps like, what do you believe will always be true or remain true in the next decade in light of all of the innovation that we're all experiencing? So Chris will answer first.
Yeah, absolutely, Lark. I think it's a good question. AI has been so transformative. There's obviously various estimates in terms of how quickly it's evolving, and it's evolving in the thousands of days. And but there are some things around AI as it pertains to product marketing that I think won't be changing. First is the ability to synthesize data. While AI can provide outcomes very rapidly, you still have to be able to synthesize and make a decision and decide what's important and then which path you want to navigate. I think second is the ability to drive action. AI may still produce a lot of information and outputs for you, but that doesn't mean that who is there to execute and see that plan through, right? Oftentimes you hear the phrase, what is measured gets managed, and I look at, a great go-to-market plan, a great launch that could have been informed by a lot of components or AI could have informed a lot of those components, but who's ultimately building that relationship with sales, building that relationship with enablement to ensure that, for example, the compensation structures in the second half of the year are geared towards or tailored to match the strategy that we've implemented kind of in the first half of the year per that launch. Those are all things, both interpersonally, the ability to synthesize data, and ultimately the ability to drive change and drive that action are things that AI will not be able to do for us. So I think those will remain unchanged and be a part of our future here to come.
Awesome. Sam?
Awesome. Yeah, well said, Chris. Very well said. Yeah, I agree. I think mostly the thing that won't change when it comes to us, everybody on the call, as well, is that need for human empathy. I think to Chris's point, like AI can do a lot of stuff now. Like let's not pretend it won't, and it's probably going to change a lot of the way that we do things, right? But it can't do it alone, at least in our space. When it comes to figuring out like the empathetic reasons for like why salespeople do something, right? It can present data to them and it can scare them with performance metrics. It can do all of the things that AI is promised to do in the analysis and the surfacing of insights, but it can't drive that human connection that you need to have people change the behavior. So similar to what Chris was saying, like we use AI a lot here, but like to drive people to change with just an AI output alone is not enough. It needs us to put that overlay on that and help drive the connection and the next steps in more of a conscientious way than AI is currently doing. But like, it can really augment what we're doing, of course. So it will change. Like I almost don't want to put my finger on something and say it won't change, because I think it will, candidly. But when it comes to things like how we do market research, it's going to do a lot of that for us, but we are always going to need to be there to spark that more qualitative conversation with people, if it's in a focus group or on a call, for example, and help get the right output out of the humans, the ones who are signing the checks at the end of the day, interacting with our campaigns. So I think the common thread is empathy is not going to change. I know you probably heard all of the buzzwords and read all the articles about it, so sorry if I'm just cringing you out right now, but that's really what we need to hold on to and like harness the things that are going to change parts of our job, but not let it take over the empathetic side, because it will not work. Buyers don't spend a lot of money from an AI output. It's still from relationships, which we will own and we'll try.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, I'll jump in really quick. I think to just reiterate there, like no matter how sophisticated our tools get, right, people still largely want to buy from other people. I know there are a lot of self-serve models out there. Carvana exists. There's a huge like car kiosk right off the side of the interstate by me right now. So I know people do buy without interacting with other people. But I would say for, the most part, large scale software purchases for an enterprise level company, people want that type of human interaction. And so reps still need to build that credibility and tailor their messaging and understand the buyer's world in order to facilitate those conversations. And AI can absolutely help surface the right content or streamline the follow-up, but it can't replace genuine connection or strategic thinking. So really, I think enablement will always be about empowering people, and AI just kind of helps us do that more efficiently.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that, I mean, IntroHive is a relationship intelligence platform. And so that's kind of one of the common threads that I'm hearing throughout the conversation today, right? Where relationships are kind of one of the most valuable but least measured asset in business. And I think even with our platform, we're using AI to kind of streamline some of the workflows, but at the end of the day, it's a human at the other side of that phone or on the other side of that call. And so the value of relationships, I think, can't be understated. So I think while AI can help to operationalize some of that and increase people's efficiency, I think at the end of the day, it's a human connection that matters most, and AI can't replace that sort of human element that comes to play when either closing deals or retaining clients.
Awesome. So in a similar vein, this is more aligned to like a collaboration theme, but how are you working with colleagues in sales and enablement? And I know some of you actually run the enablement team, whereas some of you partner with them cross-functionally, but Milan, go ahead and start there.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't run Enable, but I help to, I play a heavy hand in enabling cross-functional teams at IntroHive. And I think, getting on regularly scheduled calls or proactively reaching out via Slack or email is one of the things that I continue to double down on. Analytics don't always tell the full story. And so I really try to make an effort to connect with sales and enablement teams to get the full picture of what's working and what's not. If something isn't working, I loop stakeholders in and kind of get their feedback before immediately going to solutioning. I feel like getting to the root cause of why something is working or not working is much more insightful than just high-level metrics. And I think having a collaborative approach to this stuff is super important. So I do my best to seek out information to level up our enablement muscle. And I feel like as other stakeholders in the business are looped into those conversations, they have sort of skin in the game in a sense when it comes to enablement. And so the end result is a lot stronger enablement because you've looped in cross-functional stakeholders versus just kind of operating in a vacuum, looking at analytics and kind of raw data, and then making decisions and actions based on that. So I think at the end of the day, analytics and reports and dashboards are fantastic, but you also have to make the effort to proactively reach out, get on calls, and kind of be in people's faces a little bit to really kind of get that qualitative feedback as well as that quantitative feedback in terms of what's working and what's not. So it's a little bit of hustle with a little bit of kind of left side, right side brain, but that's how I approach it. And it's been fairly successful at our organization when it comes to creating net new content and then also just updating our existing material based on the conversations that are happening across the business, because things change really quickly, and so being able to keep a pulse on what's changing, when and why is super important when it comes to enablement. So that's kind of how I've been partnering with colleagues in sales and enablement.
Yeah, I think the hustle is really kind of what defines kind of what we're doing right now. I mean, at Speckit, we are very focused on making it easier to answer the question of, like what content is actually driving impact, but it's that hustle behind it of understanding the analytics and aligning with other stakeholders that really makes it come to life. I would say that collaboration piece with sales enablement specifically to understand where reps are getting stuck, what's being sent to buyers, what type of engagement is happening, and then being able to track it back, what content is being used and shared out, and tie that back to some type of usage and actual revenue impact is huge. And I actually don't know if many PMMs have the ability or honestly know like how it's possible to track content usage back to revenue. Before I came to Speckit, I'll say that I had basically zero visibility into what content was actually being used by my reps. On the marketing side at my previous job, we had a digital asset management platform. We used Brandfolder that had that sales had access to, and they were supposed to use it to create trackable links to send to prospects. But I guess, as you can imagine, very few reps actually utilize that capability. So we on the marketing side didn't really have any idea about what assets were being used or what was being sent out. And on the sales enablement side, I know they had their own tools like Notion for knowledge management, and like a light asset repository. So even though PMM and enablement worked really, really closely together, and I always felt very aligned with the team, we had, I would say, very inherent friction points because we weren't in one unified platform for knowledge and content management. And I would say that was kind of like the toughest thing for me. So outside of just that big collaboration and hustle piece that Milan was talking about, it's being able to view what's happening on the rep side.
When I look at this question, how we approached it at Q4 was, obviously we have a platform like Speckit, which makes it very easy for people to get in and access information. But how we looked at it with our enablement leader was we want to go into it knowing which pieces we want to have the team focus on. Right. We know exactly where they want to be spending their time because this is what we want to emulate in the marketplace. And this is what we need them to look at. So kind of 3 things that we do to ensure the reps are going to the places we want them to go to obtain the information we want to obtain are the following. One is we do certification with exams on the content we provide at Speckit. So Speckit is where they go to find that information. We guide them there, and then we ultimately quiz them on that and certify them on that. A part of that certification is ultimately also a verbal component, which is, are you pitching what we want you to pitch correctly? As an example, if it's a launch or something that side of the house. And then the third thing is following up in a program like a Gong or some sort of voice call recording tool where we're tracking keywords. So we are threading all of these components on top of each other, and credit to our revenue or enable leader for working through that, because that's ultimately how we approach it is, while we can see where people are spending their time, we want to guide them to where the answers are and ensure that they're going back to that resource and that is being followed through across kind of their sales process and their journey. And we have different kind of controls in place to manage that. So that's something that was relatively new to Q4 that I learned in prior experiences that our enablement leader took on and moved forward with. But that's how kind of I look at this question, and what we do is we want to ensure we're telling them where we want them to go, and then obviously being able to measure on the back end.
Yeah, great answers. I don't know if my enablement team's on the call, but I think we've got the best enablement team in the business. They did an amazing job at what they do, and how they're structured really helps us identify not like what the content necessarily is that it's needed, but like what impact means for different teams. So like the way the enablement team structured, which is separate from my team, they know the intricacies between like what you need to do to enable a technical salesperson or even a delivery person with sales, with demand gen, and help articulate what content needs they have to different impact measures. Kind of going back to what lights me up, like knowing that the sales team's measure of impact is a little bit different to the demand team, which is different to the technical delivery team, and how the content goes all the way through. And so having kind of the ear to the ground across like our functions and how content builds on itself for different measures of impact is critical, and I'd be lost without them. And then helping bring tools like Speckit and bring data to us, like Chris said, from Gong Calls and others, to help us continuously refine our product marketing and our content is huge. And I feel like although we have different reporting structures, we feel and operate like we are one team, which is great. And my small view and the limited time my like product marketers have is broadened significantly because of their mandate and how they look at the world.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Okay. Kind of a simple question, but also not so simple, because I think we're all getting bombarded by tools that have some AI component to them. So curious to hear from all of you, like, how are you using AI? Like, where do you feel it is driving the most efficiency for you and your teams? And perhaps, like, what have you tried that hasn't been successful yet? Chris? Chris is muted, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, cool.
There we go. We're back. Our enable leader is intellectually curious and really was working with Speckit on the AI component that you brought in. To me, just at a very high level, and I know we're on a Speckit webinar, but that has changed the game. The ability to search using AI is groundbreaking in our space, because particularly there's so much legacy content that's in there that's still relevant, that now is much more queryable. And on top of that, it also helps us improve the quality of the content, because people are searching for things that are actually could be incorrect. So there's just so many benefits. It really is a force multiplier for us as it relates to particularly enablement. In a broader sense, as a product marketer specifically, how I'm using it, and probably using it very much in the same way that everyone on this call is. But one area that I'll share that I think is that I haven't seen as many people deploying AI is when it comes to a gap analysis as it relates to expansion. So if you look at NRR being a metric, net revenue retention, you know how much you can sell to yourself or to your own client base. That was fundamental, being able to leverage, a free tool, put in information on, different ICPs, and then it calculates ultimately where there are gaps in products that customers that are like and kind have, and then those that are like and kind that don't have, and then assigning TAMs to those. And that has been really instrumental on a year-over-year basis to determine where are the areas in the business we can sell into ourselves. And particularly as we head into, or as we are in, less than ideal conditions as it relates to just projections and stability in the macroeconomic environment, being able to sell to yourself is an important skill or muscle to develop as an organization. And that is an area that it has improved our efficiencies to be able to perform that kind of analysis and then drive go-to-market off of that, as an example.
Awesome. Milan?
Yeah, for sure. So it'd be cool if AI could unmute and mute yourself when you're speaking. I feel like that would improve a lot of people's efficiency. But I digress. Similar to what was just said, I use AI a lot just in brainstorming and writing content, helping with messaging and positioning in more just creative and kind of non-traditional ways. I think we, as product marketers, we're kind of always in the trenches when it comes to messaging and positioning. And so it's difficult to kind of, flip it on its side and kind of think about it in different ways, or try to position things to different part targets of your ICP. And so for me, it's been really helpful in kind of that brainstorming side of things, and just helping with, me scale and do more messaging and positioning than I would have been able to do previously. Additionally, I really like using AI actually to extract customer insights and testimonials from call transcripts. It's been incredibly helpful for that, and because those insights and those kind of quotes are often really challenging to actually track down and get, and even just to recall what a customer said on a call. And so having AI there to support me is really whether it's preparing for a product launch or building enablement resources, it's been a huge time saver, just to ensure that messaging is grounded in real customer value, and highlighting the pain points and the quotes and the testimonials that our actual customers say on our enablement resources, and in our assets. So I think being able to extract those valuable insights from call transcripts has been incredibly important, along with sort of the messaging and positioning arm from AI. So that's kind of how I've been using it in my day-to-day workflow.
Sam?
Awesome. Yeah, but similar to Chris and Milan. Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things that's helped is using it for like data cleansing, like making sure that the data that we have is usable. So similarly to what Milan said, is like making sure that the insights, and I think Chris mentioned this too, are coming from a data source that's clean and robust, and it's grounded on something that people are going to trust. And so like using like the typical kind of AI functions to like make sure your data is in the right format, or make sure that you're taking out any kind of erroneous data that might be in there to then run your insights models on has been big for us. Also using some of the AI to prompt additional like insights from our customers and from our prospects. So like going on the same thread as Milan, like we get a lot of feedback coming through about our product services, and so do our customers, but using some more of that kind of like AI agent type functionality to say, hey, give us a little bit more feedback, please. Or we notice you're doing this, can you share a little bit more? And then the kind of summarization capabilities are a lot more accurate, a lot more usable, making sure like when we respond to RFPs, for example, we use AI for that. And knowing that the AI is referencing data that is current makes the RFPs a lot stronger, makes it more current to what we can offer in our product today. I'm not sure kind of who on the call has like complex products, but when you're selling a complex product, the data changes, the capabilities change very, very quickly. And so using AI to clean the data, respond to RFPs, to summarize insights, and then also for like initial market research. I don't want to go down the synthetic personas route, because there's still so much to do there, but even to start to test some initial hypotheses helps just point us in the right direction. And then we can go a bit deeper, get more qualitative, get more in person as we go. So there are a couple of examples of how we use it today.
And I think all of those points are so relevant. I don't need to belabor any more of them. I just want to say, like, on the marketing side, we do have a little saying, and I know Elle, our director of content and comms, has a little sticky note on her computer that just says, "Can AI do that?" So, if AI can help us and augment what we're doing in any type of way, we can absolutely utilize it for what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. All right, last question, and then we'll get to your alls. So I see several questions in the Q&A, so please do submit questions, and we're going to get to those next. But since product launches is a key pillar of product marketing, definitely wanted to spend a little bit of time here, both in terms of, the change management. I think that's something that we're all dealing with now with AI. Like, the rate of change is crazy. So it's no longer like, quarterly or biannual releases. Like, competitive stuff's changing quickly. Your own product, you have pressure to innovate quickly. So I'm curious to hear how you're all navigating that. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, we most companies now have a continuous release cycle, so it is challenging to maintain. When I came into Q4, the biggest thing is building a muscle, but starting with a foundation. So having a documented and mutually agreed upon launch plan by tier 1 through X is critical. And there's 3 to 4 parties that are critical to that: sales, product marketing, enablement, and product, obviously. And you have to work with the leaders to get sign off on that. If you can digitize that in any way post sign off, I think that's critical. But it's been really, really easy post that, because then all teams are aligned and understand what the next steps need to be. So whether it's a tier 1 or tier 4, and we're using digital tools to assign tasks within the launch process that are mutually beneficial to all parties involved. And then our enablement team knows exactly what assets they need to build downstream of that. And we can do multiple at a time. I've also found in this environment, grouping of releases being helpful. So it's okay to release a lower kind of tier enhancement with in-app messaging, right? And then group a series of those together in a broader kind of email announcement as well. And it's also important to understand that not everything will need sales enablement, right? If you think about the job and the role, I want them spending almost the majority of their time on enabling sales individuals to perform better, right? So that's not always around a product launch. That's around sales tactics, whether that's spin selling or whether that's leveraging Medic for opportunity scoring, or whether that's objection handling or better discovery. That's where I want them spending their time. So we do try to ensure that we are very mindful of where enablement is spending their time, and that the launches that make sense, that do have implications for how we sell or how we position, that those obviously are first and foremost. But when it comes to product education or technical education, in prior companies, I've seen enablement handle that. We've made the decision to shoulder some of that more in a collaboration with product marketing and product, and make sure that sales is focused on sales. So that's what we've been doing, is kind of just starting with a good foundation, putting in proper swim lanes so we know what people are responsible for and where we want people's time prioritized. And then off the back of that, we're able to kind of manage, what I will call the fluctuation in releases in a continuous release cycle environment. You have months and quarters that are higher and some that are lower, but that helps us kind of balance that out over the course of a 12-month year.
I'm curious, Chris, when you say you use different types of tools to kind of delineate who does what, do you mean like Asana or ClickUp or Jira, or what kind of tool?
Yeah, we used. I mean, I've come from Excel environments too, but yeah, we use Asana at Q4, and that's where we have we have 4 tiers of product launches composed in there. We have an annual folder, all the tiers. We have specific naming conventions for that project, and then those subtasks. And then a lot of what our enablement team will do is, once those tasks are complete, we'll even put the Speckit link in there just to document that it's been there. So we have that kind of artifact that lives there forever. So that's what we use internally as it relates to project management of these launches.
Okay. And then how do you bring in Speckit into that? So you put the Speckit link in Asana, but do you put all of that information back into Speckit?
Yeah, so Speckit will be an output of the enablement section as an example of that. So that's where we manage that. So all of our sales and like product and any kind of technical enablement will go into Speckit. The Asana project is more of just a holding area for, did this task get complete? Yes or no? If so, by who? And then we will link to the finished product in there as a document. So we don't do anything in Asana. No user goes into Asana to obtain information on enablement. That will all happen obviously in Speckit. It's more just that's our single source of truth for who's doing what and when it's due by.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. I think we have a very similar kind of approach to launches. So in terms of tiering, making sure that I correctly identify what tier is launching and enable the teams in that way. I would say PMM and enablement need to be aligned to have that common goal to work towards. In my mind, I see it as like the who, what, and how of a product launch, right? So who needs to be enabled? Is it the reps? Is it the CSMs? It's the partners. You have to answer that question. And then what do they need to know or say or do? So do they feel comfortable with the new product or feature? Can they demo it? And then the how would be, how do we as PMM and enablement deliver that training and the content in a way that CS or sales will actually understand and be able to use and adopt. And I would say, I think the awesome part about working for Speckit is that everything gets built out in the Speckit platform for us. So we do utilize ClickUp on our project management. But for Speckit, from any type of like product documentation from our PMs to timelines, to talk tracks, messaging, collateral, etc., anything that sales will need, it'll all be available in Speckit and is readily available for our reps right when they need it, so they can go reference those points, on a call or anything like that. So I don't get those kind of frantic slacks from sales to be like, oh my gosh, what is that new messaging framework that we just rolled out? Or can you send me those talk tracks? Because I know many PMMs have probably felt that that issue before, that problem where you try and put that content out into the world or out into the organization, but people just can't find it. So having that kind of central repository and knowledge area has helped me, I guess, on product marketing dramatically.
All right. We have a lot of questions in the chat, but please feel free to add more. We'll go ahead and get to some now. So Deanne has a good one, which is AI is a great tool to help write the first draft. It's helpful to get something to start from, but what are strategies you're using with your teams to make sure there's like a review process for accuracy, so they're just not going with like the first draft?
Yeah, at Q4, I lead enablement, product marketing, content, and partner marketing. So content comes into me, and everything goes through that team. So everything from like they meet bi-weekly with even our BDR team. So for even like outreach sequences or something like that. So we want to encourage people to leverage AI and obviously a safe way for using free tools, not putting proprietary information out there into the internet. But we do have a mechanism where we ensure that the content team or product marketing is reviewing it. So if it's more sales or tactical in nature, that's every 2 weeks, because we're meeting every 2 weeks to evaluate what's working, what's not working anyway. So that we take that opportunity to review the content. Then anything, that's kind of the only kind of area where you might see some curveballs. Everything else, whether it's blogs or just general content that's coming from PMM or content, that even though we might be leveraging AI, that will go through, which most people on the call probably do have those controls in place, going through the content team for review, even at the email level as well. So that's what we do. And I would imagine that'd be relatively the same here. Again, the curveball might be sales, but we like to meet with them on a bi-weekly basis anyway to review performance, and we take that time to review any new content they want to deploy.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, it's very, very cross-functional in nature, to make sure that it's not just one person's output that's kind of making it to the end product. One thing I will say though is, as AI continues to develop, I feel like that will get more and more difficult as time goes on. As AI continues to get more sophisticated, it'll be increasingly difficult to identify what comes from AI, which versus what comes from a singular person. And so I think that cross-functional nature and collaborating a little bit on content ensures that somebody isn't just making those decisions or creating that messaging in a vacuum, and that it's kind of like the company or the team's collective knowledge that's being put into a piece of content, and not just something that a chat GPT or something of the like spits out and then is immediately customer facing or external.
So we're exploring actually AI tools. So some of the bigger ones, from Writer, Jasper, so on and so forth. And that this is where it's going, is to actually avoid this actual question. I have my own concerns and reservations about that, but it's just interesting to see how these other tools are taking in a lot of those variables, Milan, and trying to make them more constants. So being able to upload your brand voice and tone, being able to upload, whether it's certain grammatical things or how you want to position certain things, different logos. So it's going to be interesting to see how close it gets. And I think it'll happen in our field. It'll happen in marketing first, where we might see kind of the biggest advancement in, I don't want to say no human review, but that's where they want to get to. Because if you think of AI and in agentic AI, it's to complete that full circle. So it's to identify problem, synthesize, provide solution, execute solution. And that execute solution is where we obviously come in, but that's where it's going to go. So it's going to be interesting to see really in the next, few months, 12, 16 months, to see how good those tools get, because they've been around for 5 years now. They were around even some of them before GPT. But as of today, definitely still needs a human look, but the tools are trying to get there, and I think it'll happen in our space. It's going to be cool to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Just added to that, and maybe stating the obvious, but making that first draft the best it could possibly be, and going back to what I said before about the data going into it, right? Making sure the data going into it, that AI knows everything that you want it to know about your products, your services. Make sure your prompts are reflective of your brand voice. They're reflective of your target audience. Like the data going in, the prompt that you create on top of it, like the more you can refine that, the better the first draft's going to be. And then so when we go through and we review for accuracy and not just copy paste in, back to your question, like the closer it is, the more like targeted the review cycle is, and where we may get out of our depth sometimes, and we need to go to like a product SME or like a C-suite SME to jump in and verify. It has to be as close to ready as possible. And so those like small tweaks to get AI as close to that, we found makes a big difference for us.
All right. This is a good one, which is, do you and enablement have shared KPIs?
Yeah. Yes. And I think Richard is on the call, so he can actually probably throw some of those in the chat, Richard, if you're on. And he didn't realize he has to do homework on this call or any work. So yes, we do. And it's very commercially driven. We have a revenue focused CMO. Everything that can be measured will be measured. Marketing isn't a cost of doing business, it's an investment in our organization. That's the culture we have here. So yes, the biggest ones are obviously individual win rate that he has, collective win rate, revenue. We are tied to revenue numbers, and then time to first sale. So that will be ramp time. So those are some of the big ones that we have. And then he's got a variety of what I'll call his own or our own, I'm gonna call them NPS or CSAT, but basically how well we do survey users on Speckit in terms of not only how easily you can find material, but also your experience, and also, do you find the material helpful? And then any kind of post enablement surveys, we do have scores that we are trying to obtain in those as well. So, but yeah, those are shared metrics, and again, 60% of them are obviously revenue focused, as they should be. So that's how we line up here.
Awesome. Sam, I'm curious because you said, like, one, you feel like your enablement team is incredibly strong, and two, you feel like there's a really good partnership, even though you're different orgs, you feel like you partner well. What are the things that you feel like? Is it shared KPIs? Is it leadership alignment? Like, how would you assess, like, obviously there is alignment, but how do you feel like you got there?
Yeah. Good question. I think the key to it is just like the collaboration and the willingness to adapt to each other. And so while we don't necessarily have shared KPIs, maybe we do, and we both just don't know about it, is another question. But the goals that we're chasing are the same. And so when one of us has an idea or an initiative, the other one is there to support it full force. And whether that's like this year, we moved from like quarterly launches to real time, like as they're ready. We weren't just going to like sit on something for 3 months and then launch it like we used to. That's a big transformation for us. It's huge. We got 5 platforms. We got 6 different personas in 6 different buying groups. And so that transition was hard, and knowing that you're going in like arm in arm to go and solve this problem together makes a big difference. And enablement lead in terms of like, here's the format of how we're going to do this. Here's an introduction of a new tool, Spec-It, to make it easier for you, Sam, and your team. And I'm just sat back grateful for that initiative. And then when it comes back to like, when we're looking at tiers, like product marketing may think something is a tier 1 in our definition, but enablement think, well, that's actually just a tier 3 for what we've got to do. We've got that understanding, that respect of each other's KPIs being slightly different, even though the direction's the same and the culture and the collaboration is top notch.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, like, I do think that, to Sam's point, the goals are usually similar. I don't know if a ton of organizations might be as put together as Q4, Chris, where you do have the same KPIs for product marketing and enablement, but we're working towards the same things, especially at Spec-It, doing sales enablement and content management. It's something that we think about a lot. So how can we align on metrics like content usage or win rate, content adoption, or pipeline generation? And those are all things that we can see within the platform. So the outputs and the goals there would be the same.
Yeah, and I think, there's another question here around how do you ensure product marketing is seen as a strategic partner to sales, not just a content factory? And to your point about shared KPIs and goals, I mean, that obviously was a strategic decision that we made to align product marketing and enablement, in that fashion. But even in other organizations that I've worked at, where we were maybe had different executive or different senior leadership, it is incumbent on us as product marketers to, manifest things, right? I mean, everyone who's a product marketer I look at is going to be generally intellectually curious and very driven. And it's up to you to go out and get those metrics. Like, one of the first things I do when I get into an organization is, I need by product metrics. That's win rate, pipeline, average time to average sales cycle, win rate, close loss reasons at the product level. And that's defensible, right? No one can say, why would product marketing need that? Well, that's my job. My job is to ensure and understand what these products are doing and how they're selling. So starting that conversation there puts you in a position to already start influencing the way sales is looking at things, because you can start bringing to them, for example, what product combinations sell better than others? I have the data to enforce that. So, if you don't take that initiative and don't go out and start thinking in that mindset, then yes, you'll be viewed as a content factory. But the more you can position the impact you're having, and also wanting to understand that performance and that data, that will help make that happen. And to your point about, alignment at other organizations, take that first step, because we are a strategic arm that also can provide a lot of execution work. And that's what makes PMM so unique, but also our biggest detriment in terms of the inability for us to say no when a lot of people come to us for requests, because we do sit at the intersection of product marketing and sales. But it's incumbent on us to take that step and think in that mindset, because everything comes back to your point, how well is X, Y, and Z performing, and how well is that performing at the product level?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, shared goals aren't just to support sales, and generate pipeline. It's helpful, obviously, but I think alignment between PMM and enablement is to really prove the business impact of what, these two teams can do together at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think as well, like when on that enablement arm and things like that, I think grounding it in kind of like what's in it for them, right? Salespeople are very metric focused and have their tasks on a daily basis, and so I think grounding some of your enablement resources, and when you are enabling teams live, to kind of ground it instead of what's in it for them, because to your point, we can be seen as very much a content factory, but I think product marketing and marketing team as a whole can help sales kind of with those pipeline numbers and with some of those other KPIs that they're really focused on, and not just be seen as sort of, the content factory, as this comment alludes to.
That is I tell you one thing, if people come out here with one thing today, I hope it's that, because you're spot on. And one thing that we've done is anytime we're doing an enablement, right? And whether that's why we want you to sell more of this versus that, or why we want you to sell this combination over that, or why you should be looking to push this new launch over that, is we'll take a scenario from a specific rep on where they are versus quota and apply just average win rates to what this new product could be, build in discounting ranges, and show them the exact impact it has on their take home. And, talk about what AI can and can't do. It's showing that, selling that, and having the conviction behind that ultimately, I think, drives adoption and change, supported by all the metrics that AI can synthesize for you. But kind of, to put a bow on all of this in terms of where we started and where we are at the end of this webinar, I think that's great. I think that's a great point, and critical to any enablement, session, is to show the direct impact whatever it is you're trying to explain can have on that person's take home.
Absolutely.
All right, we have like 8 minutes left, panelists. There's a lot of questions we haven't answered. Do any of them jump out at you? A lot of stuff around how you're using messaging to differentiate your own AI offerings with all the noise out there, like for your own strategy, anything you've found effective there. There's some questions just around any mistakes you've made with AI, how you're guiding your team and things like that. Any jump out at you, or any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think Gina, you came off mute as well. Do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay, no worries. I think that marketing the AI products, we've got a killer director of product marketing who knows AI deeply and can help us go from like the top level AI powered whatever the hell the next thing is, right? And like get into the next level of detail quickly. And so like having enough to say like, hey, we're going to drive XYZ outcomes, but then really quickly being able to show a differentiating way of how we will do it, right? We've got some really big competitors. We're like number 3, and like the gap between like budgets, team sizes, and everything between number 1 and 2 is huge. And so we've got to rely on some of those like different tactics. And right now we're deploying the more transparency in the how to a level that like our competitors may be a little bit uncomfortable with, or we're getting into the how with like enough technical detail that we can talk to like 80% of our like technical buyers, whereas everyone else is staying a little bit too high level with like the benefit story. And I see that a lot. Everyone is still so like in product marketing, they're talking to the benefit story, as we should, but then the target audience is like, yeah, cool, AI powered, yes, got it. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're going to keep getting better, I hope, over time. But getting to the how and getting deep enough as a product marketer with the product team to know when you're moving over into like giving away too much intellectual property that your competitors may jump on the how, is the balance that we're trying to make here. So yeah, getting from the why to the how in AI quickly is where we are.
Yeah, I like that. And it's almost one of those things now where AI is almost table stakes for SaaS organizations right across the market. Like it's to your point, Sam, about just getting those 1 or 2 layers deeper without giving too much away. But just saying AI powered capabilities or AI this and that isn't really enough anymore. I feel like you have to go down to those benefit statements and kind of get under the hood a little bit in terms of what that means for them and why they should care. So I feel like just slapping AI on anything doesn't really get results. It's about grounding that in what that means for them, to the question earlier as well.
I'm curious for the people on the call too, to put in the message board, and even the panelists today, is I guess it's kind of 2 questions, but one is, how, to your point, Sam, how technical are you getting today? There's so much information asymmetry that exists in the marketplace, right? So, and this is a challenge that we're working through, is how much to arm our reps. We have a release coming out in July on the technical side of it, because there is that buyer out there that, to your point, is savvy enough to pin us down on a few questions, right? And then speaking about the outputs, the second, which I'm interested in, is our initial data from our POC, we have a beta program going out here, as well as some industry events, is that the buyer profile in terms of where they sit on what I'll call the AI spectrum of understanding, right, seems to be generational in their persona, less on the characteristics of the organization, meaning it's not necessarily that a cybersecurity or tech firm is going to be more savvy in AI. It will come down to the individual buyer. And I'm noticing that the buyer, there is a generational difference in their understanding of AI and how they're leveraging it. I'm just curious. There's kind of two questions loaded there. I'm just curious if anyone on the panel or in the message board has anything to add to that, or what they're seeing.
Yeah, I think, Chris, we're grappling right now with our ICP in terms of like, as we position ourselves as more AI forward, because kind of like you guys were saying, that seems to be table stakes at this point. Do we shift our ICP away from, those AI adverse companies who don't want to necessarily change, or who haven't adopted that type of like legal stance on AI, even, if you will? So figuring out where to toe the line between how we create the ICP, where our ICP is right now, and like where we want to go necessarily as we transform into more of an AI intelligent company.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. There's just such a broad spectrum of the understanding of AI that it's almost impossible to have a website or content meet all of those, meet that spectrum, is what I'm trying to say. That's what we find challenging.
Yeah, and AI continues to evolve at such a fast pace that it's difficult to, once you're up to speed, you're maybe 2 months behind already at that point, right? And so it's just this ever evolving thing that you just kind of have to keep tabs on and just stay on top of, to kind of, to your point, Chris, just be able to have those conversations and get under the hood a little bit and just educate yourself on how the industry is changing.
Yeah. There's a question that came in: how do we see it differ generationally? So I'm dealing with an IRO. I'm dealing with CFOs at exclusively publicly traded companies. So that's the world that our company lives in, and they have access to Bloomberg terminals as an example. This might be getting very specific, but they're very much just using it to synthesize information. So summaries, right? That's where we're seeing a lot of traditional use cases, which, as the panelists and I know, is very baseline, but you see a lot of that because these tools are just doing very simple AI deployments, which is understandable. But what I see generationally is, do you use GPT in your personal life? No. I don't use it. Okay. So that's where we're seeing the generational shift. Now they're using it, the outputs in Google, but are they going to an application and leveraging that directly? That's where we're seeing it. So those are some of the differences as a high level example. So yeah, they're using AI, but the AI that's been given to them and in very rudimentary ways. And nor do we see the adoption of even some of their more intricate tools because there's a learning curve there that we have to get over as well.
I feel like I've taken too many HR trainings to answer this question, but maybe. All right, we are right at time. Thank you all for joining and engaging. You all will get this recording and slides, and if you want to continue this conversation, feel free to connect with any of the panelists on LinkedIn. And thank you so much, Chris, Sam, Milan, Gina. You're all very busy people, and I greatly appreciate you. And thank you to everyone in the audience for taking an hour out of your day to join us and learn a little bit. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and we will follow up with the resources shared today. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.